My name is Tim Ewald. I'm the Vice President of Engineering at Laser Blast.
I'm Mike Ewald, the Sales Director at Laser Blast.
I'm actually an engineer. I've got a couple of engineering degrees from University of Michigan and a master's in small business administration from Indiana University. Our company is named Advanced Avionics because since the time I was about 5 years old, I was very active in model airplanes. And so that was really my passion growing up through grade school, junior high, high school. Spent incredible amounts of time building and designing and flying model airplanes. That was my hobby. And when I went through college, I knew that I wanted to start my own business. So naturally, I went to engineering school, aeronautic engineering, electrical engineering, and mechanical engineering. And then after that, I decided that if I'm going to run a small business, I need to get a small business degree. So at that point, I had started a model airplane company called Advanced Avionics, which is still our company's one of our legal names. The other one, we filed DBAs as Laser Blast. But the company was originally called Advanced Avionics because I had developed model airplane telemetry systems for flying combat with lasers, basically laser tag for model airplanes, where you want to prove you're a better pilot than your buddy. You put one of these telemetry units in your model airplane and have a dogfight. So that sort of led me into that technology. But then I went to pick up my son at a laser tag birthday party, and the operator of the store was having a lot of trouble with his equipment, and I just was talking to him a little bit, leaned over the counter and saw some solder smoke coming off of a repair he was doing while he was trying to take care of a customer. And I asked him, what's your problem? He said, you know how much I pay for this stuff and it doesn't work worth a darn. And I just said to him, well, you know, I have my model airplane t-shirt on. I said, well, you know, I could do that for a third of the price. And he looked at me and said, if you could do that, I'll buy 3 systems. And that was it. That's how I got into it. It was a slight adaptation from what I had developed, not knowing anything about laser tag. I had developed it for model airplane, the equivalent of model airplane laser tag. And that's how I got into it. It took a lot longer than I expected it to. And the real, making one work, piece of cake. Making it work well, not so hard, with some good direction of what people want. Making it durable, very difficult. That was the key. So it took, I think we spent 3 years working on the first 3 systems, and to get over and over replacing the system with new modifications to make it more durable. We went through a lot of small, without spending a lot of money, a lot of small systems. Like the very first ones went to Toys R Us, and we bought Toys R Us laser tag Star Trek guns. And
the shells for the outside.
Yeah, just to prove the electronics and the software for firmware development. So we were walking around for months with there's no way it would be durable enough for laser tag. But my mother used her heavy-duty sewing machines to sew seat cushions into vests so that I had a place to mount the receiver electronics, and we cut all kinds of patterns to perfect the shape of the vest out of newspaper. We just did it low budget, rapid prototyping techniques for months and months and months. The early days, there were a lot of smaller companies that Laser Star was out, and you'd run into them. There was Laser Storm was popular. There were a lot of smaller companies that just aren't around anymore. And I think they all had reliability problems if you talk to their owners. So it became more and more clear that that's what was needed and that's what was missing. So there were a lot more actually companies, I think, then than there are now. I think everyone was talking for the first 2 or 3 years about the shake-up. And I was brand new into the industry, so I didn't even know what they were talking about shake-up. I was busy designing my equipment, but a lot of companies were coming and going at the time. So that was maybe 3 or 4 or 5 years. We must have spent 2 years perfecting the 3 systems in the Detroit area. The one in Canton, one in Ann Arbor, and one in Taylor were systems 1, 2, and 3. And we just spent all my time going between those stores, observing, perfecting, picking up repairs, figuring out what we could do to lower the failures and the repairs.
Well, and at that time, your full-time job was the director of engineering at the optical display glass company, and later on the automotive lasers. But you kept that full-time job. For those
I know. I kept full-time. I was director of engineering, large engineering departments, 40 engineers for 15 years. So all the work I was doing, and my employer knew that I was, and it worked out really well for them too, because like for instance, Perceptron was a industrial laser company, and so what I was doing in the evenings and weekends, and what my wife, our president, was doing, was she would handle everything that needed to be handled during the day, and I left the company, the day job, and took care of design improvements in the evenings. So it was the competitive situation, I think, in laser tag was a lot different. Systems like in the QZR days, they were selling for $150,000, $180,000, $200,000, and we had introduced our original classic glass system at the $20,000 price point, and so that was a big shakeup. That was a big deal for buyers to. What do you mean you can build? And we were doing well at that point, when you manufacture your own goods, you don't play the markups. I mean, we were the manufacturer, the designers, so we had a distinct advantage. So that helped a lot. So I think at that point, all the other manufacturers were still going through various marketing channels, and they had a lot higher cost structure than we had. We actually incorporated in 1992. So we really, the first systems were installed and being prototyped and tested in 97. Like I mentioned earlier, we spent about a little more than 2 years perfecting it. So we really started rolling it out in 2000 and promoting it. And all during this time, we were operating with 2, 3, and 4 employees out of our house. We operated, it was your classic Silicon Valley startup in the garage. The whole 9 yards, and so we had lived in a residential area, and as we got bigger and bigger through the early 2000s, the semi trucks going up and down the hill, delivery became an issue, and it became clear that after maybe 8 years of growing that way, it wasn't happening anymore in the house. So we got an industrial space and continued the process there. But then I think we moved into the industrial space around 2007, maybe. We've been there about 12 years, so somewhere around there. We spent a good 10 years. I kept the day job till about 2009, I think, is when it became unmanageable. And we were probably at 10 or 12 employees at that point. And we had and still have excellent employees, and they're self-starters, knowledgeable, and been there long enough that they ran the place. So having the day job wasn't as big a problem as it might have been if we didn't have such good staff. Timeline Innovations. We ran the first 6 or 7 years what we call classic glass, which back in the day that was an IR downloader system. So all the data at the end of the game, you had to wait in line and aim your phaser in front of a downloader device, and everything. We didn't have wireless technology until
2005, 2006. We came out with the Hyperblast system, which brought in real-time scoring, radio frequency, and really streamlined the whole game process. So now your turnover time after a game is 30 seconds instead of several minutes to get everyone out.
Yeah.
After that, the wireless charging system. We came out with that and won the IAAPA Brass Ring Award in 2011 for that innovation. That was a huge game changer for most operators.
Yeah, we still do what we've done since day one. My primary focus was reliability, and so we still are constantly looking at what fails and what can we do to make it not fail. And by far, number one, and I recognize this 10 years ago, was the battery connections and the battery systems were primary. I mean, they're called primary cells for a reason. And so that's when we said we could either do the contacted. At that point, a lot of people had tried holsters of different kinds, including us. We had various holster schemes over the years in lots of locations, and we decided to take the plunge into full wireless, no contact wireless charging. And that took 18 months of work on my part, and that's after I was full time with Laser Blast. So that was a big effort, and there were a lot of technical challenges to make that work, but it came out really well. It means you can throw the vest on the rack. There's no contacts to wear, no plugs, nothing, and just magnetic flux charges the battery. It's almost like magic. I mean, it still gets me all wiggly when you see that. Well, how is that working? Or if you turn the vest off and you just set an off vest on the rack and it powers up and charges the battery. It's just still sort of cool. I'm always looking to get that magic feel back into it. Our magnetic latch, magnetism is still sort of magic. I mean, magicians use it to do things, and it's still it doesn't feel natural to see something like that work with pure magnetism. And so that's why it was about 7 years ago when we introduced magnetic action to the latch system, just to put a little pizzazz, just a little how does that work? Just something a little special. Other innovations, we've chosen to keep up with the Windows flavor of the day for the last 20 years. So our system. I mean, that's more of a chore than what it'll do for the laser tag. But there is a big benefit with keeping up, and that's been, the Windows 10, Windows 8, XP, Windows. We skipped the millennial. Windows 2000 was a disaster for anyone that went that way. In a commercial commercial setting, was very problematic. I think one of the other innovations that was very successful at the time was our Fun Blast box. To get rid of I'm always looking, I think I mentioned before, at where's the failure points? Well, the PC can be mostly operator-induced problems, but people will mess up the computer. And so we decided to come up with a computer-less system called Fun Blast that had 4 buttons on it, very simple, and still had all the flexibility that you needed for a lot of systems. So that was a big deal at the time, and did quite well.
That was actually developed for Carnival Cruise Line. They were demanding a way to temporarily set up an inflatable with laser tag on the cruise ships for the at-sea days. So they'd set this up for 4 hours at a time.
And the reliability of laptops and setting up a computer and plugging it all in, it was not something they could handle. So this just simple box, plug it in the wall, turn it on, was new at the time. I'm trying to think of other innovations.
Well, we've come out with, over the past few years, things like the AI projector targets, where you have a 10-foot animated video of a spaceship or a zombie or a helicopter that flies out of the wall and attacks the players, unless they take it out before it gets them. So that's been a pretty cool, well-received piece. 2 years ago, we came out with the trivia stations and the custom questions so that school groups and companies can load in their own lesson plans or new product knowledge and reward their employees for learning up on it before the game is played.
I just remember I'm older, so one of the things from 25 years ago, we did some early work with painting and coatings on what looks better, a black phaser or a clear phaser. And what we discovered through impact testing, actual sledgehammer controlled, measured scientific engineering testing of the strength of polycarbonate plastics was that no matter what you did to put that coating on there, weakened the plastic 30%. And so we were one of the very first ones to go with all clear plastics. And why, it was sort of gratifying that 5 years later, 4 years later, we started seeing all the competitors start going to, clear plastics. So that was I think today we're probably the only ones too that have gone with the clear skeletal system with a rubber overmold. So while the black and the multicolor looks a little cooler, and that's what our Cyberblast system is, it still has that clear, uncoated, stronger skeleton. So that was I think as far as I know, that was a Laser Blast first back 20 years ago where we had stayed with the stronger clear polycarbonate.
There's 4 of us in the family. Tim here is the vice president of engineering and the founder. Carla Ewald does the accounting, HR, and she's been the president of the company. Myself, I initially helped with some of the repairs and assembly when I was 9-10 years old, and later on, after leaving to do some other things and go to college and kind of live life a little bit, came back to join the sales team and the marketing team. My brother Brent, he's helped us out with a few designs, and he'd also initially helped with the manufacturing repairs, but he's since become an industrial engineer for another company, so he's not really part of the business at this point. So there's 3 of us from the family.
You have to count our big dog Thor. I got to get a word in for the big dog. He's our security guard at the shop. We suitcased IAAPA at first. We were debating whether to get into it, and the laser tag business was actually somewhat mature at that point, and we're scratching our heads, do we really want to hook our cart up to this horse and go this way or not? And so we just walked around and talked to the laser tag suppliers, and like I think I mentioned before, that they kept telling me there was a big shakeup coming, and the personalities that QZAR was, I think it actually just gotten out of the market at the time. So there were a whole bunch of different players. Laser Storm still had a small booth. There was a lot of change going on, and a lot of the manufacturers were getting out of the business. The operators, there were a lot more fun centers. Laser Storm had done a lot of cool things with roller rings. So all these manufacturers had their specialty types of attractions that they worked with. But they all suffered from what I could tell from reliability problems. If you talked, we had a lot of success. If you talked to the owners, the operators of that system, number one, they were all dissatisfied with the amount of repair time it took. So that was it was obvious that was a problem in the industry. It was, all the centers were successful. The revenues were actually, one distinct difference was the cost of opening a standalone laser tag was significantly lower. The regulatory environment, much more friendly at the time. I mean, if you had $150,000, that would be more than enough to do a fantastic opening of a laser tag arcade combo. You could easily do it, especially working with us. We entered the market at about a third of the price for as good or better equipment than what the competition. So I believe we probably might have shook up and accelerated the shakeup that was already underway. But it also enabled smaller markets. So instead of having to have 500,000 people in your market, that town with 150,000 could now afford to operate. So that was a big change that we had quite a bit to do with.
At that time also, most of the arenas out there were more of a fluorescent, glow-painted kind of arenas.
Splatter paint was big.
So yeah, you had a lot less of, not really any interactive devices, not a lot of detailed theming, not a lot of high-impact arenas that would get the adults in.
And yet they were still successful in making great revenue. Because the competition wasn't nearly as fierce.
And more of the arenas were standalone laser tags. So you saw a lot of laser tags with a small arcade, maybe 1,000 square feet, and not much else. Whereas nowadays, you're almost exclusively seeing multi-attraction centers, 15, 20, 30, even 50,000 square feet, with bowling, laser tag, skating rinks, climbing walls, trampolines.
Yeah, most of the systems back there were standalone laser tags.
So that's definitely, the state back then was far different in that regard. As Tim was saying, when we first started, one of the biggest differences was durability and price, offering a more durable product at a price that was less than half of what was currently on the market.
Well, and the other complaint I got all the time, and we decided, hey, I'm going to listen to the customers. I mean, that's the only way you can, the customers is the right. Everyone at the time was paying large annual fees. The concept of you own the equipment, I'm selling you the software. They all had keys and annual costs, and I never liked that as a customer, and our customers that we talked to hated that. So we came in and said, we don't do annual fee. When you buy it, you own it.
One of the very unique things we've come up with is that magnetic latch to speed up the vesting and devesting process, get that throughput up. One of the big differentiators between all the VR and AR games coming out today and laser tag is just the sheer volume of people you can put through a laser tag attraction in the same space and with the same money. So that magnetic latch has sped things up significantly. The transition to wireless charging, it's kind of forced some of the competitors to start to try to develop better charging techniques. Almost everything out there has been plug-in chargers that are prone to breakage or forgetting to plug them in, forgetting to unplug them in the morning and tearing them off the wall. So it's kind of helped to drive some innovation in that regard. Another cool thing we've recently come out with is the projector targets, moving large projected video images into the arena. And I think that's kind of bringing an element of augmented reality without, it's not full augmented reality, but it's without all the added expense. It's still within the same cost and development of a normal laser tag attraction. So I think that's helping to drive things forward.
I think one thing I did a study before Mike took over 10 years ago or whatever in the marketing department. I was trying to do the engineering, the manufacturing, and some marketing research. But what I found very interesting was our customers, the 5-year success rate. Are they still in business 5 years later? For years and years, we were at 98%, 95%. And yet our competitors, as near as we could tell, and it's very difficult to gather the information, were typically the 5-year I'm still around rate was down in the 50%. And so our prospects would ask, why is that? Why is Laser Blast, and I think, I wish I actually knew the answer, but it's a fact that our customers, we changed the dynamic. Our customers now we've had them for 20, 25 years. So that's a change in the laser. Moving it forward, it becomes much more of I think our customers feel like they're more, I certainly feel like I'm more of a partner with our customers. Or at least, I don't know about the other guys, but I feel very proud of their success.
So one other thing is always trying to make the system easy to use and operator friendly. So one of the things we've come out with recently to help drive that forward is the smart mission briefing feature. One of the complaints and issues most operators have is they only run team and free-for-all games. Most laser tag centers, if you go in and ask about a zombie or a domination game, they'll look at you kind of funny, even though their system can do it. And the problem was just staff members. The person that gets assigned to laser tag is not always the best staff person. Sometimes it's a new hire, and they may not be able to give a good briefing. So with the special briefing video for that game, so that the players can learn without relying on your staff member to give a good briefing. And they don't have to know anything other than how to press one push button for the video and one to start the game. We do have a link on our website to a Google Maps list, which shows most of our locations. Again, that gets updated at least every couple of months.
Last time it surprises me is I focus more on engineering and less on installations and sales. Last I heard we were 30 countries or 29 countries?
So 30 countries. The 30th, we recently installed the system in Asunción, Paraguay.
Oh yeah.
So that was. We also added Mauritius, a country off of South Africa last year. There's really nowhere else that you can get all the interactive effects. You can still play and have fun with your friends and family in real life, face to face, not just in front of a computer screen. It's a fun, active game, but you don't have to be in great shape to play. People still love the idea of lasers and zapping each other and kind of interacting with that landscape and that environment.
Yeah, I think part of it's the audio experience you get in an arena too. At least for me, it's different when it is foggy and you can see that laser and feel the vibrators. The first time, long time ago, when I got hit, there was a big vibrator in the vest I was using, and it startled me because you see that laser coming at you, and you don't expect to feel it, and when you actually feel it, it's a startling experience. It's a different kind of a customer. The multifunction centers, as opposed to the lobby kibitz, or the chatting after the game, the rivalries. You don't see that as much as you used to.
And there's a much bigger variety of laser tags out there. Instead of your standard sci-fi and splatter paint themes, you've now got 20 or 30 really unique environments that you can go into, and soundtracks and music, and it's almost like a walk through Disney ride, but you're also playing laser tag. So the game has really changed. There's a lot more. The competition has kind of evened out a lot more. There's a lot more great systems out there, a lot more great features. The game's just gotten a lot more fun.
We're sharpening our pencil and changing our management techniques. It's still a lot of fun. Being a family business, our employees have been there 12, 14 years on average. I mean, very, very, very long term. I'm glad to say we've been able to get the extra growth and production out of our current employees.
Just excited for the future. We're always working on some new developments. I got a couple of really awesome things that can't really speak to at this moment, but that we're expecting to come out with spring and later this coming year. So it's just with the way technology is advanced, it's an exciting time to keep on moving forward. It's just a great industry to be in.